In 1988, Nashville, Tennessee, became the center of a shocking true crime story that still haunts the state to this day. Inside a family home, Angela Clay and her two young daughters, LaToya and Lakeisha, were brutally murdered in one of the most heartbreaking Tennessee murder cases ever recorded. The investigation quickly revealed that the killer was a stranger, but Angela's boyfriend, Byron Lewis Black, a man with a violent history who should never have been free. What followed was a decades-long battle on Tennessee's death row, filled with appeals, legal delays, and controversy over the death penalty in America. For nearly 36 years, Byron Black fought against his execution by lethal injection, raising questions about mental health, intellectual disability, and the cruel reality of last 24 hours on death row cases. But when his final day came in August 2025, witnesses say his last words and final moments revealed something no one expected. This is a haunting true crime story of the Byron Lewis Black execution, a Nashville triple murder case that exposes the failures of the justice system and the chilling truth about the death penalty in Tennessee. Stay with me, because what you're about to hear will change the way you think about justice forever. If you want more emotional, suspense-filled, and fact-based true crime documentaries, make sure to subscribe to my channel and turn on the notification bell, because the next story may be even more shocking. On March 28, 1988, the city of Nashville, Tennessee, became the setting for one of the most shocking crimes in the state's history. Inside a quiet home, 29-year-old Angela Clay and her two daughters, LaToya, 9, and Lakeisha, 6, were found brutally murdered. This case would later be remembered as one of the darkest true crime stories in Tennessee. Angela was discovered shot to death while she slept, while her two daughters were each killed in separate rooms. Forensics revealed that Lakeisha tried to defend herself before being fatally shot, a detail that left even seasoned investigators shaken. Who could commit such a horrific act against a mother and her children? The answer would soon send shockwaves through the community. Investigators quickly turned their attention to Byron Lewis Black, Angela's boyfriend. What they found in his past made the murders even more disturbing and raised questions about how this tragedy could have been prevented. 2 years before the murders, in December 1986, Black had already revealed his violent tendencies. During a confrontation, he pulled a gun on Angela's estranged husband and shot him, nearly killing him. That conviction sent Black to prison. But Tennessee's work release program allowed him back into society far sooner than many believed was safe. This lapse in the justice system became a key question in the case. If Byron Black had been kept behind bars, could Angela and her children still be alive? The fact that a man convicted of attempted murder was allowed the freedom to walk into Angela's home in 1988 became a chilling failure of oversight. It was within this context of overlooked danger that Black was accused of executing Angela and her daughters in cold blood. The Nashville murder case quickly became a symbol of both personal betrayal and systemic failure. The trial of Byron Lewis Black began in February 1989, capturing the full attention of Tennessee. Prosecutors laid out a brutal timeline of the murders. Angela was shot as she slept. LaToya was killed with shots to her chest and neck, and little Lakeisha tried desperately to fight back before being fatally wounded. The Clay family murders were presented as deliberate and merciless. The evidence against Black was overwhelming. Prosecutors argued that his history of violence, his access to Angela's home, and forensic evidence tied him directly to the killings. The jury listened in horror as medical examiners described the children's injuries in graphic detail, painting a picture of unimaginable cruelty. On March 8, 1989, the jury returned with a verdict: guilty on all 3 counts of first-degree murder. The next day, Byron Lewis Black was sentenced to death for the murder of Lakeisha and given 2 consecutive life sentences for the murders of Angela and LaToya. But instead of ending there, the case was just beginning a legal battle that would stretch on for nearly 36 years. After his sentencing, Byron Lewis Black began what became one of Tennessee's longest-running death penalty appeals. His attorneys argued at every level, state courts, federal courts, and even the U.S. Supreme Court, that his trial was flawed and his execution unlawful. Black's defense often centered on claims of intellectual disability. His lawyers presented evidence of low IQ scores, brain damage, and mental illness, including schizophrenia. They argued that executing a man with these conditions would violate the Constitution. However, courts consistently ruled that the evidence was not strong enough to overturn his sentence. Year after year, Black's legal team filed new petitions, each one delaying the execution. For the families of Angela, LaToya, and Lakeisha, each delay reopened old wounds, forcing them to relive the horror of 1988. For Black, every new appeal meant another chance to escape Tennessee's execution chamber. As the execution date of August 5th, 2025 approached, Black's lawyers introduced a new defense, his failing health. By this time, Black was 69 years old and had a serious heart condition. Doctors had implanted an ICD, implantable cardioverter defibrillator, in his chest to prevent cardiac arrest. Attorneys argued that Tennessee's use of lethal injection with pentobarbital could cause the device to malfunction, shocking Black repeatedly and inflicting unbearable pain. They filed lawsuits claiming this would violate the Eighth Amendment's ban on cruel and unusual punishment. A lower court agreed and ordered the device to be deactivated before execution, but the Tennessee Supreme Court overturned the ruling, allowing the execution to proceed. With that, Black's final legal battle came to an end, and the countdown to his execution began. On August 5th, 2025, inside the Riverbend Maximum Security Institution in Nashville, the final chapter of Byron Lewis Black's life began. Prison officials prepared him for the end as he selected his last meal, pizza with mushrooms and sausage, donuts, and butter pecan ice cream. It was a strange and almost mundane request in contrast to the gravity of what awaited him. At 10 a.m., Black was escorted into Tennessee's execution chamber. Witnesses reported that he appeared frail and resigned, his health visibly deteriorating after decades behind bars. When asked if he had final words, Black quietly answered, "No, sir." Moments later, as a lethal injection was administered, Black whispered, "This is hurting so bad." His final statement stunned witnesses, raising immediate questions about whether the lethal injection had caused unnecessary suffering. At 10:43 a.m., he was pronounced dead. For the families of Angela, LaToya, and Lakeisha, the execution was a long-awaited form of justice. Lynette Bell, relative, said the family could finally find closure after more than 3 decades of waiting. But not everyone felt the same way. Black's attorney, Kelly Henry, condemned the execution, describing him as a gentle, kind, intellectually disabled man who should never have been put to death. To her and many death penalty opponents, Tennessee had crossed a moral line. The case of Byron Lewis Black remains one of Tennessee's most haunting death penalty stories. It highlights the devastating impact of domestic violence, the failures of the justice system that allowed him freedom before the murders, and the decades-long battle between justice and mercy on death row. In the end, his execution leaves the same haunting question echoing across America. Does the death penalty deliver justice, or does it create a second tragedy?